Get out of the camera now. As soon as he goes free out. Unused. Oh.
I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. Do we have any speakers related to items that will be discussed in closed session? Seeing none, the board will convene to closed session. The board will now convene open session, report after closed session, live streaming on YouTube will open now for open session of the Board of Education meeting. The URL for YouTube live streaming will be found on the NHUSD Board of Education webpage. If you're joining us online via the Zoom webinar, you would like to provide public comment for this meeting, you may do so by utilizing the raise your hand option in Zoom, or if you're calling in by phone, please press *9 and we'll be called on. Community members may still provide public comments to the board prior to each meeting via email at publiccomment@nhusd.k12.ca.us. There were no comments provided to the board for tonight's meeting via the public comment email address. I would like to also remind the public that the board will not be responding to questions posed by those making public comments. But with regard to closed session items, the board has no items to report out. I will now hand the meeting over to Vice President Kumar, who will preside over agenda item 5.
Thank you, President Nishihiro. For the audience, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
One Mallory,
Here.
Rebecca,
Here.
Gonzalez,
Present.
Kumar,
Here.
Nishihiro.
Here.
And back to you, President Nishihiro.
Okay, I would like to I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with an additional information item right before the land acknowledgement to honor the retirement of an esteemed colleague.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Abstentions, motion carries. Okay, with that, we are, I'm gonna hand this over to Dr. Potter.
All right, well, we have one of our longtime members with us, and someone who's been with us at our board meetings, Mr. Scott Pisani, this is his last board meeting. After 30 some odd years in the district, or as a teacher, administrator, multiple sites, and he's made it all the way through. So we'd like to recognize Scott and honor this accomplishment. We have a little something for him, and we'll have you come up, Scott, in a minute, but right now we have a token of our appreciation, and if it's okay with the board, I'll read what it says on the inscription. It says, "With our greatest appreciation, Scott Pisani, thank you for your decades of leadership. Congratulations on an outstanding career. Your focus on equity and student achievement, coupled with your love and talent for the arts, made you a unique leader in our district. Your contributions to both the past and future New Haven will be remembered for years to come. Happy retirement and best wishes." So with that, why don't we go down? It's officially from the board, so
Thank you. All right.
Right, okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Awesome, thank you.
All right, excellent.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Then, does anybody have any comments they'd like to make with regard to Scott? What's that? I'll start. Okay, well, I gotta say, I've been a pleasure working with you, Scott. I remember my first, few times working in the district at school site council, like, if there's ever anybody, if ever there was anybody that you could ask with regard to data and student data, Scott was the guy. He had all his numbers buttoned up, and he was always there to explain things in ways that made it easy to understand. So thank you for all the work. And I think the big thing to call out is, you kind of make it look easy, right? With the way that you're able to collaborate with groups across our district. thanks a lot, and you've left a pretty big shoes to fill. So thanks for all that you did.
I'll go next. Scott, I just wanted to thank you for all your dedication to our students and to our school district. Thanks for everything you did. Congratulations, and I hope you enjoy your return. Thank you.
Scott, we're gonna miss you. Our board meetings are so quick and we don't really get a chance to, break bread and hang out. I'm just gonna miss you and appreciate you showing up to our event, Dakota Community. You went out of your way on a Saturday, a hot day, and you showed up there. Just all the service you've done for New Haven. Just appreciate everything. Gonna miss you.
Thank you, thanks, Scott, for the time that you gave me to understand. Thanks so much for your time, Jacob.
So I thank you for all your years of service, Scott, and your heart's definitely for the students and for the community, and it really shows. And I just really hope that you enjoy every moment of your well-deserved retirement.
Well, Scott knows, we came into our current role together in 2019 and we navigated some really difficult times. I couldn't have done it without Scott there, so I'm forever indebted to him for his support and his help. And he's gonna be great, but I will definitely miss Scott.
All right. Outstanding. Okay. Moving on to 5.4. Would anybody like to read the land acknowledgement? Okay. Trustee Riddick.
We want to open up this meeting by acknowledging and with respect and love that the land we are on today is the traditional ancestral homeland of the Ohlone Chichewa First People. We recognize and thank the Ohlone people as the original stewards of this land. Indigenous people must not be spoken about in the past context as if they left on their own accord, when the real causes were white supremacy, manifest destiny, and US colonization. By recognizing we stand on the occupied indigenous territory of the Ohlone people, we recommit ourselves to listen to native leadership and stand in solidarity with people struggling against systems of oppression throughout the world, past and present.
Just thinking, okay. Moving on to item 6.1. How many speaking requests do we have for topics that are not on the agenda, both on video and in person?
We have one blue card for a topic not on the agenda. Do we have any in blue?
Okay, so we have one speaker. Okay, so speakers, thank you for taking your time to share your thoughts today. Speakers will be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes. Speakers exceeding 2 minutes will be asked to conclude their remarks, and if in person or will be muted if on video conference. As a reminder, the board's role during this item is to listen and will not be interacting or commenting directly from topics raised here today. Please call the first speaker.
Okay, first speaker is Darlene Crittenden.
Is this on or off topic?
Off the agenda now.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm here to ask that the board, first of all, I want to thank you for acknowledging Teachers Week this last year. I'd like to ask that in the future, the Teachers Week be aligned with the National Teachers Day. I sent an email to everyone requesting that. That way it does not cause any confusion for our community or our parents. They recognize us as well. And we like to have a cohesive effort at each school site, and that would assist in that. Also, I would like to ask board members if this upcoming year, if you could make time to visit different school sites at each of the levels, elementary, middle, and high, so that you could see the direct impact of the large class sizes we have. In a first grade classroom, to have 29 students in it leaves very little room for moving around. And I really think that each of you as leaders in our district should see this for yourself. When we have students that are in 5th grade recognizing this, it's pretty important that we let the adults that are in leadership roles see this and be able to make changes for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 7. 7.1, how many speaking requests do we have for topics that are on the agenda for both video and in person?
We have one blue card and no speakers on Zoom.
Okay, speakers will be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes. Speakers exceeding 2 minutes will be asked to conclude remarks. As a reminder, the board's role during this item is to listen and will not be interacting during the comments raised here.
Please call the first speaker. All right, call Darren Goodman back up.
Thank you. Good evening again. I wanted to speak with action item, on action item 12.6. This is the amended and reinstatement of superintendent employment contract and the contract amendments for the assistant superintendent of business and the assistant superintendent. Again, I'm speaking to the board, as leaders. I would really appreciate your assistance, as would, I'm sure, every other employee in the district with our upcoming contract negotiations. Our contract does not expire until the end of this next year. However, I'd like to get a jump on it, considering I'm on the NHTA bargaining team. I'd like to implore you to work with staff so that they would be expedient and that this would become a priority. I really would like to ask you to help the district become mindful of the fact that as an educator or anyone else working in the district, there are increased costs in our lives, just like there are for PG&E, for water, for garbage. And if they could be more mindful and include us in the budget, this would cause us to have a better outlook as partners. And also it would cause less friction between employees and district management. I noticed that there is a request for 12.5, an increase in the board trustee stipend, as well as the 12.6, an increase for the top 3 in the district. Just keeping that in mind, just as I'm sure those both will pass tonight with no problem, I'd like you to be mindful when our contract comes around to be generous as well, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 8.1, do we have a report from the CSEA president? All right, seeing none, moving on to 8.2, do we have a report out from the NHTA president? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to 9.1, the board will now hear a report on equity, access, and achievement from Noble.
Good evening, Board President Nishihira, esteemed members of the board, Superintendent Thompson, and others joining this evening. I'm going to have a brief presentation to you all on the end of the year survey report. We did a survey on the equity, access, and achievement team. I'm going to start. Let me see if I can get this thing to work. Yep. Just going to start briefly overviewing the team from the ESC. There's myself, Marcel, and Nellie. From elementary, we've had one change where Nahida, who is currently at Alvarado, will be moving to the high school position, replacing Lily at Conley. And coming in new to Alvarado is a current teacher at Alvarado, Lauren Maselli. Middle school, the Tosa stay the same, and high school at Logan, Karina will be leaving. She's going to go back into the classroom and teach biology, and we're bringing in Vanessa, who's been at Pioneer, to join the Equity, Access, and Achievement team. So other than that, the team is staying the same. I'm really excited about that. I think we have a really strong team of equity leaders. And I know Lauren and Vanessa are going to be really positive contributions to the work that we're doing. We did have a survey and the link is there. I'm not going to belabor the night going into all the questions in the link, but just in brief, there were 20 questions, 155 respondents. 80% of them were teachers, 56.8 of the teachers are from the elementary school level. Each survey question had a majority response of agree and strongly disagree, and I was really happy about that, because I wasn't so sure how teachers and other staff members were going to answer. There are a significant number of non-applicable responses. Of course, were questions like, was your TOSA involved in your equity council? And many teachers were not involved in equity council, so they weren't able to answer that. So we have a significant number of non-applicable in those responses. So please, when you get a chance, if you haven't already, you can breeze through the survey report. Some of the recommendations that came out from the survey was having the TOSA team begin the year by framing the work at the back to school meeting. I'll go deeper into what some of that work looks like as we go through the next few slides. Improvement of communication from the equity, access, and achievement team to all. I think that's one area where I didn't do such a good job on, being that it was a new position and we're all trying to figure this stuff out. So I expect to be better. I expect there to be better communication going forward, especially the what and the why behind this work. Also, we're going to continue with the equity podcast and continuing to develop and communicate a plan. Some changes and focus for next year. We started working with cultivating belonging through a culture of cultivating dignity through a culture of belonging with John Cronapple, and we're going to be contracted with them. We're going to continue working with them on dignity consulting for executive leadership, a high school cohort. All sites will experience implementation coaching, and there'll be student dignity workshops in Logan. New Haven Promise Equity Leader Cohort, we have 30 teachers throughout the district enrolled in our first anti-bias grant cohort, which begins August 16th. If approved tonight, we're also going to be working with WestEd on a trial approach to improving disciplinary outcomes and reducing racial disproportionality in disciplinary outcomes between Black and other students in the 4th and 5th grade. And then with MTSS, we're going to deepen our efforts to support the application of MTSS resources and applications for social emotional learning, especially around Tier 1. And then our focus really, in my mind, going forward, will be really thinking systematically about envisioning equity and excellence for all schools, building a cohort system, building a coherent system that promotes equity and excellence, advancing school cultures in pursuit of equity and excellence, supporting leaders and advancing effective teaching practices, and overcoming any equity and excellence leadership challenges. I also want to take a moment before I finish to make a connection between Promise 54, who we started this year with, the equity survey that you all have in your hand, and our equity scope for the coming year. So as you know, Promise 54 conducted an equity audit, and there were 6 priority areas that came about. They highlighted a need for better communication and connection, inclusive decision-making and feedback, resources and support for staff, and talent systems and structures. The 2 priority areas that are in my wheelhouse are the DEI capacity building and DEI strategy. So those are the 2 priority areas that the Equity, Access, and Achievement team can primarily focus on. In order to develop capacity in DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, our strategy thus far has been to focus on cultivating belonging and dignity throughout our district, and to develop the New Haven Promise Equity Leader Cohort, where, like I said, 30 teachers signed up this year to participate in over 40 hours of anti-bias training that's going to be led by the TOSA team. We're also continuing with the equity walks. We've streamlined our equity council meetings. And from the end of the year survey, we know that we have to develop a better system of communication with staff and must become stronger in our capacity to support schools with MTSS. Our scope for 23-24 includes, in addition to better communication and cultivating belonging and dignity in all schools, really deepening our capacity and support for MTSS. And we're also continuing to work on Black wellness, repairing harm and building trust, And of course, collaborating with the work with Mikey and Raquel as she comes in to support system-wide professional development opportunities for all. And if approved, tonight we'll be working with WestEd on their program, reducing racial disproportionality and disciplinary outcomes between Black students and other groups by working with teachers on an empathetic disciplinary approach and with students on a self-affirmation writing intervention project. That's all I have to say for the summary of the survey, but I also did want to say to Scott that it's really truly been a pleasure working with you. I'm gonna miss you, man. Are there any questions?
I'll open up to the board. Yes, Vice President Mark.
Well, thank you for that summary and for all the great work you're doing. I did take a look at the survey and I have a comment and 2 questions.
Okay.
So my comment first off, I think it was very impressive that the percentage of the strongly agreed and agreed far exceeded the disagreed for the most part, especially in your first year of this program. So that was very impressive.
Thanks.
So huge shout out to your team.
Thank you.
My question, so the first question I had was this is about the site equity walks. So I think there was question 6 that asked about whether those walks helped improve outcomes for students. And that was one where a majority disagreed and they did not believe it helped. There were some comments that said there were no follow-ups after the equity walk. So I just wanted to know, what was your vision? What was our vision with the equity walks?
So first of all, great question. The vision for the equity walks for some schools, because each school was quite a bit different. Some schools hadn't had any equity walks at all and they didn't want them. So for some schools, it was just kind of getting in there and letting them know this doesn't hurt. It's just for, for us to really kind of join together around being comfortable with people coming in your classrooms and walking through. Some sites it was to develop the tool. Some sites it was go all in. What are we doing? What's it looking like? What can we do to improve? And the sites that were like that, let's go away and get it done. Those sites they created digital feedback tool. Some sites had a paper tool. So part of the vision was to get everyone to a digital tool because you can give it immediate feedback. And those sites that had the digital tool were able to, share it with their staff and really start working through. And there were some staff that did not use, and as we started and proceeded through the year, we started with paper and then we developed the digital component and then kept going. So you kind of see, I think, a little bit of all of that in the data that you're getting. Ultimately, we're still, for me, I'm still trying to develop the tool that I think is best. But each school is looking at different things so that each tool will be somewhat different. But we do want to be able to have a tool that we can use to compare across the whole district. It's difficult to do that when all schools have different needs. So as we're working on the next year's tool, we'll have some basic questions for everyone, and then perhaps the questions that are specific to each site. Did I answer that?
Yeah, that
Okay.
makes sense. Thank you.
You have a second question?
I have a second question. So this was about the TOSA's role. So it seemed like a lot of the teachers seemed to they didn't quite have clarity on what exactly the role of the TOSA is. They knew that they sub for teachers, sometimes they're doing admin work, among other things. But it wasn't clear. And some of them expected some sort of professional development from them that they didn't get. So I was wondering, I'm assuming we had a list of responsibilities for the TOSA. Was that shared with the teachers? Because it seems like they did not know what.
So I think the list was shared with the teachers and with the principals, but ultimately this being, year 2 after pandemic, a lot of the TOSAs found themselves, although initially we said they weren't going to be doing any subbing, they were going to be primarily working on equity. A lot of the TOSAs did find themselves in classroom subbing, supporting the principal in different ways. And we thought that was okay because, they're team players and they need to help. But that kind of shows up in the data too. What were they supposed to be doing? Sometimes teachers thought that they were doing administrative work. So when I talked in the brief presentation about communication, we really want to start the year being very clear that they will support in different ways, But this is the primary function of the TOSA, you know, and I know we didn't really do a whole lot of MTSS support, but starting in August, we're gonna really kind of take a deeper dive into MTSO. Our team can support staff in that way as well, and just being really clear when we open up the year and getting back to business about what the TOSA's role is. So I think that's another area that we can kind of beef up in our work too, because I don't ever want the TOSAs to give the impression that that no one is sure what they're doing. So I think the work that they do is really important. And I just wanted to be very clear from the start. So we're going to start August off being really strong about that. Thanks for your questions.
Thank you, and thanks for the work you do.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank you. I hope I answered your questions. If not, you know how to reach me.
All right,
Have a good night, everyone.
thank you. Moving on to 9.2, the Director of Digital Services, John Mattis, will provide an outline of the State Board of Education standards for local indicators that support local educational agencies in measuring and reporting their progress within the appropriate priority area. Mr. Mattis.
Thank you, President Najir, members of the board, Dr. Thompson. I'm John Mattis, Director of Digital Services, and I am here to give you a brief update on our local measures, our local indicators, which are a part of the state's kind of comprehensive accountability system. And we will start with what the heck are the local indicators? It's gonna be really good, you guys. Might as well start kind It is possible that Mrs. Nobles ate up all the battery. I'm blaming you. Okay, we can advance the slide. Thank you. So if you can imagine a different slide. So the state of California is interested in a number of pieces of information and accountability for school districts. And so they have the dashboard, which we're all familiar with. And through the dashboard, they're able to kind of keep tabs on information and data that's available through things like CalPADS or a state testing and accountability system, grad rate, attendance, test scores, those sorts of things. But there are other initiatives and other really important measures that the state is interested in getting information on, which isn't captured that way. And so through data like that. And so they rely on school districts to do a self-assessment of looking at a number of different, using a number of different tools to ensure that we're doing our best to make sure that we have an equitable and engaging and effective learning system for all students. The local indicators are, unlike the dashboard, which can drill down to particular school sites. Thank you so much. The local indicators are really just at the district level, not necessarily at the school level. And so as part of the requirements is we, once a year, we provide an update to the community and the board, which we're doing right now, to give a status on where we are with the local indicators. Later in the year, we will take these results and upload them into the dashboard website so that it can be kind of included in the overall dashboard. And what you'll see, what the public will see when they look at the dashboard is instead of a long narrative, which myself and Mr. Bizzani and Ms. Stevens created, they're just going to see a met or not met. And for us, they will see met on all of those. The first of the local indicators is basic conditions, which refers to staffing, instructional materials, and the overall state of our facilities. And for us, we have met that local indicator. We had 0 misassignments of teachers of English learners, 0 misassignments overall, and only 4 district-wide vacant teacher positions. In regards to instructional materials and Williams Act complaints, we had none. And all of our facilities met the good repair standard. We didn't have anything below that. So in terms of our staffing, our materials, and our facilities, we're looking pretty good. We're in good shape. Next is the implementation of state academic standards. And this is how we're ensuring that we are implementing, that we're working with staff to implement these state adopted standards into their instruction, and then although there's still some areas that we need to work on, we have met that indicator. And you can see in terms of strengths, language arts, math continue to be one of our strengths. And we are starting the process of implementing the NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards, and we will soon be directing our attention to history and social studies. Now, besides the kind of the core content, the math, history, English sort of stuff, there's also a number of other content areas, PE, career tech, that, yes, I know we'd have a fan, that have state adopted standards that we are implementing and we're required to implement. And you can see that we have definitely some strengths, PE, world language, all of those are working really well. And there are some other areas that we're going to focus on. But one thing we do believe is that the support that we're giving our teachers and the protocols and processes that we have in place are able to get teachers the support and information they need on a timely basis. Priority 3, parental involvement and family engagement. As we all know, some of us who sat on the communication advocacy meeting committee know that we're really working hard to really increase how we get our parents involved and our community involved in family engagement. And we have met this indicator. This indicator asks districts to kind of rate themselves on how we build relationships, build partnerships, and seek input for decision making. And as kind of part of this reflection, we definitely have some strengths. Our FSAs continue to be what we consider a strength. Our own school compacts, we communicate regularly. The Ms. Stevens area of focus of ELD and translations, we're able to send home just about everything in Spanish as well. So we're really working hard to reach our community partners and make sure they feel engaged. We do want to continue to make sure we're focusing on those members of our community that are underrepresented. And so those efforts do continue to, we're still working on those, but we did meet this. Next is school climate, and we really looked at information gleaned from our parent and staff and student surveys that were done earlier this year. And what you can see is that for our students, generally they felt very safe coming to school. They believed that there was an adult on campus that really cared about them, had a connection with them, which is definitely a positive and things we're very proud of. Through the survey, there were some areas of focus. There were kids expressed that they not as many kids as we wanted shared that school makes them feel like they want to come regularly or that they can share ideas during class. So that's definitely something that we're going to be paying attention to in the fall. The last of the local indicators is access to a broad course of study. And this refers to students having relatively unfettered access to advanced classes that we're not putting in any unnecessary roadblocks. And this has been a priority for the district for many years. And so we have done a lot as a district to remove any unnecessary course prerequisites to attend, to really to enroll in these higher level classes. Obviously, for some of our higher level maths, we definitely, kids need a certain foundation, but most, if not all of those roadblocks are removed, and kids have open access to enroll, for example, in honors classes on their own. They don't need any like a grade of an A in the previous year or anything like that. If a student wants to challenge themselves and enroll in an honors class, they can enroll in an honors class. We're still working to make sure that the population of students in some of our most advanced classes mirror the population of our community. We definitely have some underrepresented groups there that we continue to kind of work to solicit engagement and participation in some of these high level classes. And with that, I thank you and would welcome any questions that you might have.
Okay, any members of the board would have any questions or comments? Trustee Schwanauer.
Thank you very much for your presentation and all of your work and staff work, to put this together and keep us up to date on our local performance and mediators. I really appreciate it. One certain thing that. One thing that I noticed was, one of the areas of improvement was continuing to, work on communication with parent groups that feel, underrepresented. And I was wondering, if you have any examples of efforts you've made to communicate with families that are technologically disadvantaged, either they don't have computers, they don't check they don't have emails, they don't, you know what I mean? So, have there been any further efforts in that area?
Yes, one of the things that UCFC has been doing is they've been hosting on a couple of Wednesdays a month, kind of a tech open house and a tech resource opportunity for families to come down if they need help getting a Gmail address, if they need help accessing Aries, the parent portal, any sort of technological support that they might need. There's staff that's available to help them. One thing, when as part of that student survey, we were pleasantly surprised to see that nearly all of our students reported that they have Wi-Fi access at home. But we still have some students that don't. And so we will be continuing to support hotspots for families, especially those families who are currently experiencing that are unhoused, that we're going to be able to do that next year. As you know, during the pandemic, we gave out thousands of hotspots, and thankfully the need for those has diminished significantly, but we have still allocated resources to make sure that for those families that need them, we can support that.
Thank you so much. And I have a little bit of a follow-up to that is, what about communications that go out and our newsletters and so forth via email? No, all parents have that. So have there been any efforts as far as alternative ways to send out communications?
So so every kind of communication that comes out at a district level, so I'm thinking our board briefs, our e-news, our superintendent's message, those go out 3 ways. Those are emailed to every parent. Those are posted on our website, and they are also posted on our social media. And although we recognize that not every family has a computer, just about every family has a cell phone. And those, so even if they don't have an email, through the website or social media, they have an opportunity to access that. Other than that, I think we as a district have moved away from, at the elementary level, for example, kind of hard copies of information in Thursday folders. Back when I was a principal, that was a significant endeavor, making sure that we had, all these, hard copies of information that were sent out weekly to parents, but we've moved away from that. So other than email, social media, and the website, I don't know that we have explored any other option.
Thank you so much.
I think the superintendent wants to add on something.
Yeah, one of the things that I think, one of the roles of our FSAs, and one of the key roles that they play is identifying families and that are having difficulty accessing information. And the need was great enough where they work with the family center, and the fact that all the FSAs are connected together really helps. So that was one of the reasons why they started the technology connection meetings. And the families, people can drop into those, but the families that are struggling with the communication to the sites that are identified by our FSAs are referred to those meetings as well, so they can get connected with technology and learn how to access it. What we found was that a lot of families, and this is, for example, when I went to one of our Latino parent advisory meetings, they had the technology. They were just missing the piece of connecting it with the district communications and in a language that they chose, not knowing that you can have it in different languages. So that's been a big focus of both the FSAs and from the family center to do that.
Firstly, thank you for getting rid of the Thursday envelope. Appreciate it. My question was about the vacant teacher position. So 4 is a very impressive number given the scale of our district. But I was curious, is this the vacant positions right from the beginning of the school year, or does it include, unforeseen circumstances that happen during the school year?
That's a good question. My role in this is to reach out to personnel and kind of get an update. So they said we have 4 vacancies, so I don't know who that included and when, because throughout the year, throughout the course of the year, folks can go on leave, and then we don't necessarily have somebody to replace them. I don't have the answer to that question, but I can look to get that.
That's lovely. Thanks.
I think I'll add one thing, since we're talking about this. It's also not considered, we kind of frame some of these things as technology or communication difficulties. They're not necessarily difficulties. There are some populations that prefer, person to person conversations. And it's not just about technology deficiency. Sometimes it's just about modalities of communication. So some people just want to be invited personally through a phone call. How you scale that, I don't know, maybe that's what we have the MSAs for, that's what we have Family Center for. But let's just be really clear, it's not just about limited technical capabilities. Sometimes it's just a preferred method of communication.
And to build on that, when we transition to online enrollment, there are still folks and families that would much prefer to sit down and fill out that stuff in paper. It's just what they feel more comfortable with, even though they've got the big iPhone in their hand, they just prefer that.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
Moving on to 10.1, in accordance with Education Code 17542, 17545, 17546, and Ed Codes 605-510 and 605-11 and 605-30. Please find the list of items that will be discarded pursuant to Board Resolution 0732122, which authorizes the superintendent to dispose of items. If any board member has any questions with regard to this item, please raise it here. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 10.2. As a part of the school accountability report card, school districts are required to make specified assessments of school conditions, including safety, cleanliness, adequacy of school facilities, and needed maintenance to ensure good repair. If any board member has any questions with regard to this report, please raise it here. Okay, seeing none, now moving on to 10.3. The board will hear, is Jen good here? Or do we have a representative?
No, we have no one to speak on. This is just a report from the committee. So
Okay, then if there are any questions with regard to the report. All right, seeing none. Moving on to 10.4, items from the board superintendent. Trustee Sean Miller, would you like to go first?
Sure, thank you very much. I do not have much to review. But I did want to recognize that we just celebrated Juneteenth yesterday. And so I wanted to say happy Juneteenth to everybody that's celebrating, and recognize that it is for some people the true Independence Day because it was the final day of emancipation back in 1865 in Galveston, Texas on June 19th. So I love that we continue to pursue equity and justice in this district, and that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Trustee Rebecca.
Mr. Chief, thank you.
I'd like to ask. Okay, Vice President, come
I'll
on.
make it quick. I just wanted to say that it's been 6 months since I started serving on this board, and I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our superintendent, Dr. Thompson, and all my colleagues here, our trustees, for helping me settle in and answering all my questions. So thank you.
Outstanding. All right, I have nothing substantial to report.
Wow, I'll keep mine very brief. Two quick updates. One, we're still moving forward, full speed ahead with the transportation plan to provide busing in collaboration with the cities or through the Dakota area and then on to CCMS and then actually all the way to IBCMS. That's moving forward. We're excited about that. And then also summer school is going really well. The demand was much higher than we anticipated, and we're still trying to get everybody in. I think we're almost there at the high school and everybody in that we can fit in, but it's going really well other than that, and that is my report.
Okay. Moving on to 11.1, does the Finance, Technology and Facilities Committee have a board report?
No, our next meeting will be in fall.
Okay. Moving on to 11.2, report for the Communication and Advocacy Committee. The board scheduled, had a scheduled meeting, originally scheduled for 6, 8, and 6. That's right, 6, 8, and 6:15, I think it was. We had to move it to 7:13. However, the topics that we will be discussing will be the committee decision framework for assembling a slate of board resolutions for monthly cultural and heritage related resolutions. We will ensure alignment across the committee and will evaluate staff's recommendation against those criteria before requesting that the board approves the slate at the beginning of next academic year. So, and that concludes the report for the Communication and Advocacy Committee. All right, moving on to 11.3, does the Policy Review Committee have a board report?
It'll be meeting again in the fall.
Okay. Moving on to 11.4, are there any other committee reports?
Just that, AXPA, the Alameda County School Board Association is planning to have something in September, so. We will be sending out communications about that as, again, the school year begins again.
Thank you, Trustee Schwab. Okay, very quickly from the Foundation Board, New Haven Schools Foundation Board. The last meeting was last Monday, and the board elected essentially the same slate for an executive committee for their foundation, with the addition of one executive board member, actually 2 executive board members, me being one of them. So I'm on the executive board for the foundation now. Other than that, there's nothing more to report from the foundation. So that concludes the report for the foundation. Seeing no further committee reports, moving on to 12.1. We have a motion and a second to adopt the 23-24 local control accountability plan with all sections.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstention. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to 12.2. May I get a motion and a second to adopt the proposed budget for the 23-24 school year and resolution 070-2223, designating certain general funds as committed fund balance.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions. Motion carries. 12.3, consideration may I get a motion and a second to expel student number 1.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Okay, now have a roll call vote, please.
Schwinn-Mallory.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Kumar.
Aye.
Ishihara.
Aye. Moving on to 12.4, may I get a motion and a second to approve the revised adult school salary schedule?
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries. 12.5. May I get a motion and a second to approve the increase of board stipends pursuant to Education Code 35120 and Board Policy 9250.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstention. Motion carries. 12.6. May I get a motion in a second to approve the amended and restated superintendent employment contract and contract amendments for assistant superintendents of business and assistant superintendent of personnel.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries. 12.7. May I get a motion in a second to approve food and nutrition services culinary manager job description?
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstention. Motion carries. Okay, 12.8, may I get a motion and a second to approve the memorandum about understanding with UC Davis, C-STEM Center and Borrego Materials and Licenses at Hillview Crest Elementary and Senior Thomas Middle School for years 23-24.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. 12.9, may I get a motion and a second to approve the adoption of Spanish instructional materials grades 6 through 12.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. 12.10, may I get a motion and a second to approve new course at JLHS beginning fall 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Abstention, nay. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, motion carries. Okay, 12.1, may I get a motion and a second to approve memorandum of understanding with West Ed for equitable discipline study for years 23-24.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, motion carries. 12.12, may I get a motion second to approve the purchase of the memorial plaque?
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, motion carries. 12.13, may I get a motion second to approve the 23-24 New Haven Unified School District school year calendar update?
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, motion carries. Are there any items from consent, or sorry, moving on to 13? Are there any items from the consent calendar that any board member would like to pull for separate vote? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion and a second to approve items 13.1 through 13.45?
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, motion carries. Okay, let's see here. Moving on to 14, we're skipping 14. Moving on to 15, assessment of governance procedures and protocols. Okay, I will actually bring one thing up. We've gotten a really good efficient pace, and I think that structuring and a lot of the homework that I think that we all do has made these meetings really efficient. I want to make sure that we're not moving so efficiently that you guys are feeling rushed, or that we are able to give enough discussion for things that you want discussion. I want to make sure that we're not overly swinging too much on the pension, but I do feel that we're getting our business. So thank you to the team. And if you guys want us to slow down for any particular things, just let us know. Otherwise, we will keep on trucking. All right, moving on to 16.1, board member requests. Seeing no board member requests, and no further business, we're adjourned. Thank you.